couple of years back, my best friend and I went on a road trip to the States for a music festival. Met up with some friends. Saw lots of things and whatnot. One of our friends comes back home with us. He needed to get back home for school, and his buddies didn't want to head home yet. So we decided to drive straight home in shifts. Took a full 24 hours for the drive. My story starts when I'm driving, night shift about 2 a.m. It is a beautifully clear night. Full moon, no clouds, middle of the summer party type night. While noticing all these conditions, I also notice we have followed the GPS onto a back road and have driven into a huge valley. Open fields, not another car or house in sight. And it's important to note that we hadn't seen anyone or anything relating to a human presence for a few hours now. Upon entering this valley, we lose our satellite signal. We then have no satellite radio, no GPS, and no cell phone signal. Doesn't really matter, as I know we followed this road for a couple more hours. About 20 minutes after entering this valley, and after losing all our connections, we come upon a bridge. As we get closer, I see a car pulled out of the side of the road. Not uncommon. People sleep in pullouts when they can. What is uncommon though, is this car has all of its windows blacked out. With all the light from the moon, we should have been able to see at least partially inside, but it was completely black. Getting closer, we also realize that it has no license plate that we can see. No big deal. We assume that it's abandoned out here. That is until we pass the vehicle and almost immediately its lights turn on. And then it pulls out onto the road behind us. This is where it gets creepy. The vehicle starts tailgating us in the middle of nowhere, and we can't see who it is or anything inside. We try to brush it off. Maybe he's lost too. Needs to follow someone out of the area. Doesn't really explain the windows being blacked out though, or the lack of a license plate. With this car now following us, I start to get an uneasy feeling. It's subtle at first, but begins to grow stronger and stronger. Soon, an all-out, get the fuck away from this vehicle ASAP feeling comes over me. I find it also important to note that I do not frighten easily. I do not panic, and I only have ever gotten this feeling in times when I know for a fact my life is in danger. I try to push all these feelings aside, as it seems like this is really a silly response to a possibly explainable situation. That is until I see something in the middle of the road. Almost on cue, this car backs off, as I and my companions try to make out what is in the middle of the road. Coming closer, we see what looks like a body laying in the middle of the lane. And this is not a big road, mind you, and like I said, it's also a back road, still paved but very small. At this moment, at the sight of what appears to be a body in the road ahead, we start freaking out. I, in no way, am stopping for no one in this desolate and isolated area. There are no other vehicles around other than the one that's following us. And I can see no housing or lights as far as the eye can see. No cell phone service, no satellite, nothing. I quickly tell the others that I am not stopping. I'm gonna try to go around or through. By this time, we are almost on it. There's no room to go around, as there are no shoulders on this road and deep ditches on the side. We're now close enough to see that it's a scarecrow. And I drive over the top and onwards. The car that was following us is small enough to go around, and it continues to follow. I speed up, it speeds up. I slow down, it slows down, until I punch it. After about 2 minutes of this, the car finally slows down, does a U-turn, and drives back. Now my friend in the passenger seat turns to me and says, "I swear I saw spikes in that thing. Lucky for us, we were driving a big truck, and the wheel span was bigger than the scarecrow on the road. Luckily we never even touched it." It was another 30 minutes before we reached a place that had cell phone service, and satellite picked back up. It wasn't until we reached home at 5 a.m. that we remembered during this time there had been a couple of missing people reported in our province. Ones who were on vacation and driving home from states who have never made it home, or were never found. My passengers fully believe that we escaped some crazy Wolf Creek type of death. We contacted the police about it, and made a full police report. However, we were unable to pinpoint the exact location. There wasn't really anything we could do other than file the report. We definitely didn't want this to happen to anyone else, because it was obviously creepy as hell. About 15 years ago, my mom and cousin were coming home from visiting my aunt, who lived about 2 hours away. The drive takes you through the desert and up some mountains, but there's a shortcut you can take to avoid the mountains and shave off about 10 minutes. The only problem is, the shortcut takes you literally through the middle of nowhere. It's a 2-lane road with nothing for 30 miles. No houses, no shops, no lights, not even those roadside emergency phone booths. They're driving along through the shortcut at around 11 p.m. and they spot something on the side of the road. At first, my cousin thinks it's a rock, so she slows down to go around it. When she gets closer, she realizes it's a lady with long black hair and what looks like a burlap shawl wrapped around her. She's crouched down facing away from my cousin. My mom says that she thought the lady might be in trouble, so they pull up next to her and ask if she's okay, if she needs help. My cousin said the lady stood up, looked at them, and let out a shriek like a goddamn banshee. She insists that her eyes were pitch black, and her skin was white as sheets, and she was seriously skinny, like almost anorexic skinny. I debated this because it was dark out, and her mind might have been playing tricks on her. But nonetheless, it was enough to spook the hell out of her and punch the accelerator to get out of there. The lady briefly ran after them, but they lost sight of her after a short bit. They didn't stop for anything, even running stop sign after stop sign until they got to the next town, where they stopped at a gas station to get something to drink and collect their thoughts. A few weeks later, my cousin was telling her coworker what happened. She said she thought it might have been a skinwalker, and she's lucky she got away. That spooked her even worse, and now she definitely will never take that shortcut again. Even when someone else is driving, she insists on taking the main highway. The story is from my grandfather. He's a retired long-distance truck driver, and he often drove throughout the night and early hours of the morning over unfamiliar roads. This one particular day, when my grandpa was in his 30s, it was between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., and he was driving down a twisted country road. It was so narrow, only one vehicle could fit at a time. If two vehicles met from different directions, one would have to pull off to the side to let the other pass. The road was empty save for my grandfather. On the right side of the road, there was thick woodland, and on the left, open fields and a lake. There were no street lights, and only light came from my grandpa's truck and the moon. Pretty lonely. My granddad was going steadily down this road, and going a bit faster than he should have. He was listening to the radio and probably not paying as much attention as he should have, when suddenly, he felt hands on his shoulder and a voice whisper in his ear, so close that he could feel the breath on his skin. He claimed to recognize the voice. It belonged to his mother, who had passed away a few years previously. Naturally, this spooked my grandpa, and he instinctively hit the brakes. Seconds later, his headlights lit up a pile of 3 crashed cars that took up the entire road. My grandpa stopped just short of the wreckage. If he hadn't braked when he did, he would have plowed straight into those cars. The occupants in the crashed car were all severely injured, and my grandpa was able to get emergency help. If he had joined that pileup, it probably would have meant a lot more dire outcome for all of them. There's a number of explanations for what my grandpa heard and felt, but he truly believes it was his mother giving him a warning.